Hey, what is up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you are doing well. For today's video, I have 3 segments that I'll be covering. The first one is my payout request for my 50K account. The second segment is going over my plan for my PAs moving forward once they reach the first payout window. And then lastly, it's going to be going over my TradingView chart for the NASDAQ and what I'm expecting and planning for the next few days and next few weeks. So for the first segment, as of today, November 2nd, 2023, it is currently 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. My last sole survivor of the funded accounts I've had over the last few weeks is currently sitting at $56,090.96. With this account, I submitted a payout yesterday on the 1st of the max payout capital, and it's currently pending. And once it is approved by Apex, then my account balance, I believe, will subtract the 2,000. So in theory, if it was approved today, then my account balance would show as $54,090.96. So really happy of being able to maintain consistency with this account. It's been a really rocky road the last few weeks. And for everyone that's been following along this series so far, you guys have seen firsthand how rough it's been. I've had multiple funded accounts. I've gotten them above safety threshold. I've done well on a couple of them just to lose it before the payout window. So it's been really rough, but I'm thankful we've come this far. The last time I had a payout request was back in September. So it's been a nice 1 month gap, and I'm just glad we're back on track to taking payouts again. I'm hitting 1 year as a futures trader on November 28th, so I'm just very humbled and thankful for this experience so far. Now, as far as the second segment goes, which is my plan for my PAs moving forward, once my PA does reach the first payout window, that means obviously I've secured that very first payout and the fees are already paid for in itself, which that's really good. But now focusing on the second payout and onward, the plan of action I have is to maintain a buffer on the PA account above $3,000. By ensuring I'm above $3,000 or at $3,000, I've already met the first requirement of the account for a payout, which is the $2,600 required threshold on a 50K account. Having it at $3,000, not only is it easier to say instead of $2,600 or $2.6K, but also it gives me a little bit more wiggle room in the event I just have a really off day, or if I need a little bit more risk or a little bit more wiggle room to trade, then I have that extra $400 space in between. As long as I'm at $2,600 or above, I would qualify for a payout, and having the 10 active trading days, of course. But having it at $3,000 is just a lot more safer in my opinion. If I ever get to a $3,000 threshold, so that would be $53,000, then I will automatically be switching over to micros. With the micros, I will still continue to trade the way that my system and the way my plan works and still look for those higher quality setups. But switching to micros, it's 10 micros for every one mini, which means there's a lot less risk on the table depending on obviously how many micros you use. But if you use 1 micro compared to 1 mini, the risk is way different. It's like, I don't even know, like $1 or something on the NASDAQ. So that, unless you're over leveraging like crazy on a micro, it's not as quickly, in my opinion, that you can lose an account compared to using max contracts with the minis. So yeah, automatically switching to micros once I hit the $3,000 threshold is going to be the plan. And then of course, if I never get to 53,000 and I'm always above it, right, then I will continue to trade on the NASDAQ and use my base hits of 10 points and use it as my baseline. So if I ever hit the 10 points, being more than okay to walk away. But if I have a little bit more wiggle room that day, depending on my account balance, depending on the quality of the trade, of course, then I would look to take a few more trades and kind of capitalize on those events. But always being okay and happy and satisfied with 10 points on the NQ is more than enough. That is definitely going to show consistency with my trading. I think that's going to look good for Apex. It's going to be good for me. And at the end of the day, that'll help me get towards that payout window. So that's going to be the plan of action for my PAs moving forward. I do have a few other back burner accounts that were rebuild that I had for a while that I just don't talk about on the channel. And those are turning into PAs, and I already have some PAs. But with those accounts, I am just, again, keeping it nice and easy. Once I get to the first payout window, going to be implementing the same exact plan that I just told you guys about with the 3K threshold and the little extra criteria with it. So yeah, that's everything. And then lastly, before we move on to the final segment about TradingView, Apex does have their 90% off the first month, 80% off recurring until November 7th, 2023. So you still have a few days by the time this video is uploaded to secure a few accounts if you want. And should you want to, get an account, feel free to use my code and my link in the description below. It does help me too, so I would appreciate that a lot. But one thing to know about the sale is that, in my opinion, if you do have the 90% account, you blow it and you were thinking about rebuilding it, at that point, I would just recommend to maybe just cancel that 90% off blown account and just buy another 90% account instead. That's just my plan of action if I ever were to be in that same space. But everyone to each their own, whatever works best for you, your budget, and your trading style. But now we are, of course, going to be focusing on our TradingView chart. So here is our 4-hour time frame on the NASDAQ, the one exclamation point on TradingView. You can see over the last couple of days, couple of weeks, we've been in a very, very serious trend, and it's moving to the downside. This is on the 4-hour chart, like I mentioned. If I were to zoom out a bit more, you can see we've been on a consistent downtrend, just kind of consolidating, but to the downside, then eventually break to the downside, back up, break yet again. This was really, really recent actually. And we finally found some support here at the S2 pivot points. And this pink line was actually drawn up a couple months ago on my chart. And if I were to zoom out a bit more, you can see it's actually all the way from May of 2023. So that line has been waiting for a while to get tapped, and finally it is. We found some support there and at the pivot point, like I mentioned, and also support at the bottom of the 4-hour trend line. And we are having a lot of bullish momentum to the upside, as you can clearly tell over the last few days here. But looking at the chart now and moving forward, I have two different ideas that I'm kind of planning for. So obviously we have a very strong 4-hour supply zone on the upside, which basically, in my simplest terms, means once we come into this area, I'm looking for some type of rejection or some type of consolidation or something that might want to push the price down. As we were building momentum to the upside the last few days, we also built some new demand zones as well, so that can help as some areas of support, because with demand zones, that's going to help push the price upward, right? So supply is down and demand is up. That's like the overarching idea for supply and demand zones, essentially. I did also talk about supply and demand zones and how I use them in a video on my channel, which I will go ahead and link at the very end of this video if you guys want to watch it. And don't worry, I'm still waiting to be able to do a charting video about that. I have not forgotten about it. Trust me, my laptop is not fast or up to modernized speed to be able to record me charting. Just pulling up the chart in itself right now is a little bit laggy, but we're working with it. So anyways, back to the video here. The first idea I have in mind is that because we have this 4-hour supply, we also have this 4-hour downtrend, this blue line right here that we have been respecting pretty well over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months here. I'm expecting this first idea where we push into the supply zone, right? We might have some hesitation or whatever, but we'll push into this 4-hour supply. We'll get to this 4-hour trend. We might do a fake out, or we might just simply reject off the top and get pushed back down. Now, for areas of possible reversal, maybe at the top of this high wick right here, or even coming into this 4-hour demand zone near this R1 pivot point is kind of what I'm expecting. So up and then a quick shoot to the downside, or a fake out before to the downside. The second idea I have is going to be the same idea where we push into the 4-hour supply, consolidation, whatever the case may be, maybe building out a bull flag within the actual supply zone before we get a breakout into this new 4-hour supply at 15.2K, and then maybe a rejection off of it. So then we do a retest and then push back up into this R2 15.26 or this 1 hour 15.3K. So that's kind of the ideas that I'm kind of playing out for, just keeping an eye out for, not obviously betting all of my eggs in one basket or in either of those two baskets. I do trade intraday, but these ideas are more so, again, over the next few days, next couple of weeks, just because we have a lot of numbers and news that are being released. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as well, if that's something that you're thinking about or what your trading ideas are, because it's always fun to be able to bounce ideas off one another. But yeah, that's going to be everything I wanted to cover for today's video. If you guys wanted to see my TradingView chart and the notes I just uploaded today, November 2nd, about everything I just talked about, feel free to check out the link in my description. And in the description is also the Apex Trader Funny website. But yeah, again, that's everything I wanted to cover. Thank you guys so much for your time and support. I really hope that you guys are enjoying this series, you're enjoying watching my journey so far, and I appreciate all of your support thus far in it too. I do wish you nothing but the best and most success in everything you do, and I will see you all in the next video.